Hey everyone, welcome back. We are seriously pumped for today's explainer because we're tackling the literal lifeblood of our modern global economy.
Oh, absolutely. Today, we are diving into the types of foreign trade. Now, it sounds kind of like a dry, traditional academic topic, but honestly, the nuts and bolts of how nations swap goods is actually mind-blowing when you really pull it apart. Let's just jump right into it.
So here's our game plan for today. First, we'll be defining foreign trade. Then, we look at the inflow, which is import trade.
Right, and after that, we flip it to outflow or export trade. And we're wrapping up with my personal favorite, the dual process known as entrepot.
All right, let's get into Section 1, defining foreign trade, breaking boundaries. Because, before we can really participate in global commerce, we've got to understand exactly what domestic boundaries are and how global trade just steps right over them. Okay, so let's contrast our two main types of commerce. Internal trade is buying and selling strictly within the domestic borders of a single nation. Like if goods are made in Maharashtra and sold over in states like West Bengal, Uttar Pradesh, or Tamil Nadu, that's just internal trade.
Exactly. It's pretty limited. But foreign trade, that's trade between totally different countries across the globe. It literally sheds those domestic limitations. You'll also hear it called international trade or external trade.
There's actually this classic textbook definition by Wasserman and Holtman that just hits the nail on the head here. They state, quote, "International trade consists of transaction between residents of different countries."
I actually love how concise that is. It perfectly captures that massive shift from, local domestic boundaries to global residents interacting with one another.
So now that we've got those boundaries broken down, let's move to our first specific pillar, Section 2, inflow, import.
Let's break down the formal definition. Import trade is basically just the purchase of goods and services by one country from another. If you want a super easy trick to remember it, just focus on the word inflow. It is the literal inflow of stuff from a foreign nation straight into your home country.
Right, and let's ground this theory in a real-world textbook example to make it crystal clear. Think about India's petroleum inflow. Petroleum is, well, an absolute necessity for keeping a growing economy running, right? For sure. So to get that inflow, India imports its petroleum by purchasing it from resource-heavy nations like Iraq, Kuwait, and Saudi Arabia. It is literally a textbook illustration of bringing essential resources from the outside world in.
And what this does is create a massive, powerful inbound flow connecting those resource-rich nations directly to buyers who desperately need those specific goods. It's this constant, vital stream that just keeps home economies totally fueled and running. Which naturally brings us to the exact opposite motion. Let's pivot over to Section 3, outflow, export trade. So by definition, export trade is the sale of goods by one country to another. It's a direct contrast to what we just talked about, representing a massive outflow. You're taking home-produced items and sending them out to a foreign overseas market. Let's look at another really concrete example. Think about India's agricultural outflow. Historically, India has been an absolute powerhouse producer of agricultural items. So the outflow happens when India takes those home-produced items, we're talking tea, rice, and jute, and sells them.
And where are they going? They're exported to major Asian trading partners, specifically places like China, Hong Kong, and Singapore. The home country produces it, and the goods just flow outward.
And by the way, moving all these exports, not exactly a simple task. We are talking about literal fleets of cargo planes, those massive construction cranes, and giant cargo ships.
Oh, totally. Getting millions of tons of tea or rice across oceans takes a mind-boggling, complex logistical engine to actually physically move those goods across the entire globe.
Okay, so we've got inbound down and we've got outbound down. Let's see how this all kind of mashes together. Section 4, the dual process, known as entrepot. Entrepot is just a fascinating hybrid loop. By definition, entrepot trade is when you purchase raw materials from one country, bring them home to run processing operations, and then re-export those finished goods to a completely different third country.
Yeah, and the absolutely crucial thing to take away here is that this isn't just moving boxes from point A to point B to point C. The real magic is in that processing phase in the middle. The home country is actively adding value before sending it back out.
Right. Let's walk through the exact textbook example of Japan's electronics industry, because it makes the whole entrepot loop super clear. A nation like Japan might lack certain natural resources, right? So they have to import. Step 1.
Japan imports the necessary raw materials and electronic components from nations like England, Germany, and France.
Then we hit step 2, the value add phase. Japan uses its specialized skilled labor and massive industrial capacity to process those materials. They manufacture them into high-quality televisions, radios, and washing machines.
And then, step 3. Japan re-exports those finished, manufactured items, selling them off to various countries all over the world. So it's import, process, re-export. That is the entrepot dual process in action.
So to wrap up today's explainer, you really have to view these not as isolated little concepts, but as one massive system. Imports, exports, and entrepot represent the 3 essential engines of global economic development.
Exactly. Through inflow, outflow, and that brilliant value-adding loop of entrepot, countries can specialize, reach way beyond their domestic boundaries, and basically drive total global investment forward.
We actually want to leave you with a thought to ponder today. As technology advances and nations get even more incredibly specialized in what they can make, how might the global division of labor reshape these 3 trade loops in the future? Like, is entrepot trade going to become even more complex?
Such a great question, and honestly, it highlights exactly why understanding these basic types of foreign trade is so absolutely essential. Thank you so much for hanging out with us for this explainer, and keep exploring the mechanics of our global world.